When Jesus says, in my Father's house there are many rooms, he's not talking about you getting a mansion in heaven. And archaeology makes it really interesting. Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic, also a pastor. So I'm not an archaeologist. I don't even play one here on TikTok, but this is an academic article from an archaeologist. It's called The Archaeology of the Family in Ancient Israel. And TikTok backs it up, but the guy's name is Lawrence E. Steger, and he does something really fascinating. He talked about something called the Beit Ab, B-E-T-A-B or A-V. And if you know any Hebrew word, you probably know Abba, right? Father. And this is the house of my father. And it actually meant like lineage, like we use last names in the United States of America. And it also meant that house right over there. And when the son was ready to get married, he wouldn't go and have his family somewhere else. He would build on room or rooms to the father's house, and he would continue to live in the Beit Ab. You can actually see this in archaeology, and I'm going to show it to you right now. So this is that article that I showed you earlier, and these are basically the diagrams from when they dug up these houses. And you can see that there are many rooms in this house of the father, the Beit Ab. Same thing here. These structures with the pillars and that sort of big room and these surrounding rooms, that's a typical structure. And you can see there's almost an identical one right here. There's multiple ones in this one. And you see it over and over again in these archaeological digs where they show you where the walls were. But when Jesus says, in my father's house, he's meaning the Beit Ab. But there's another thing about this whole phrasing. And that is that when the people were getting engaged, they would have an engagement ceremony. And after the engagement ceremony, the groom would go back and would build onto the father's house. And he would say something to the effect of, in my father's house, there's many rooms. I'm going to go prepare a place for you. In other words, I'm going to go build on a room, which makes this verse really fascinating because it's not talking about heaven. It's just not. It's talking about becoming part of God's family. And it's almost like Jesus is giving a proposal. And Jesus is showing like, hey, you want to be part of God's family? This is the way. I'm going to let you into God's family. You're going to be part of God's family through me. And he doesn't put a bunch of requirements on it, so that's a really interesting thing too, but that's a side note. But at the end of the day, it's not talking about heaven. It's not talking about mansions in the sky. It's actually talking about real life things. And it's talking about it in terms of their culture, in a way that those people could understand. We don't always understand it right away because we have to uncover some of the cultural things, but it's really fascinating.